If you are a senior driver in the United States, what is happening right now with parking enforcement across American cities is something you need to understand before you get behind the wheel again. Parking fines are increasing. Automated enforcement systems are operating in cities and neighborhoods where human officers were the only enforcement method just a year or two ago. And the rules that govern where you can park, for how long, and during which hours have changed in ways that are catching experienced drivers completely off guard. For retirees living on fixed incomes, a parking fine that runs from $100 to several $100s is not a minor inconvenience. It is a real financial hit that affects the monthly budget in ways that matter. Welcome to Senior Secure Income. This channel exists to protect the financial well-being of American seniors with honest, accurate, and actionable information. No exaggeration, no manufactured alarm, just the real facts about what is changing in parking enforcement across the United States in 2026 and what you need to know to protect yourself every time you park your vehicle. Let us start with the most important change that senior drivers need to understand: the technology revolution in parking enforcement. For most of the history of American parking regulation, enforcement depended on human officers physically walking city blocks and placing tickets on windshields. This system had limitations. Officers could only be in so many places at once. Early mornings, late evenings, weekends, and bad weather days often meant lighter enforcement. Drivers learned to read these patterns and made parking decisions accordingly. That era is ending rapidly across American cities in 2026. Automated license plate recognition systems, known as ALPR or LPR systems, are now deployed at a scale that fundamentally changes the enforcement equation. These systems use high-resolution cameras mounted on dedicated enforcement vehicles that cruise city streets, continuously scanning every parked vehicle's license plate and instantly comparing it against databases of parking regulations, payment records, and violation histories. The scan takes milliseconds. The violation notice is generated automatically, and the fine arrives at the registered address of the vehicle owner by mail, often with photographic evidence that is extremely difficult to contest. For senior drivers who may have developed habits and intuitions about parking based on decades of experience with the older enforcement model, this technological shift requires a conscious update in how they think about parking compliance. The question is no longer whether an officer is likely to walk by. The question is whether the vehicle is in compliance with every applicable regulation, because the automated system will find it regardless. Let us now go through the specific parking situations that are generating the most fines for senior drivers in American cities right now. The first and most important situation involves accessible parking spaces and disability placards. This topic deserves careful and honest treatment because it directly affects many senior drivers who have disability placards and who may not be fully aware of the rules governing their use. A disability placard is one of the most valuable parking benefits available to qualifying seniors. It allows parking in designated accessible spaces, extended parking time in time-limited zones in many jurisdictions, and in some cities, free parking at meters. These are meaningful benefits that genuinely improve quality of life for seniors with mobility limitations. But the misuse of disability placards is one of the most aggressively enforced parking violations in the United States, and misuse can happen in ways that placard holders do not always recognize as violations. The most critical rule is this: a disability placard is valid only when the person to whom it was issued is the driver or a passenger in the vehicle at the time of parking. It cannot be used by a family member driving alone to run errands. It cannot be used by a friend who borrows your car. It cannot be used by anyone other than the qualifying person for whom it was issued when that person is not present in the vehicle. Enforcement of this rule has intensified significantly in 2026. Many cities have implemented systems that cross-reference placard numbers against vehicle registrations and driver records, Officers and automated systems flag situations where placards appear to be used inconsistently with the qualifying individual's travel patterns. The fine for misuse of a disability placard is severe in every American jurisdiction. In California, it exceeds $1,000. In most states, it begins at several $100s. And in some states, misuse of a disability placard constitutes fraud, a criminal offense that goes well beyond a civil fine. If you have a disability placard, use it only when you are personally present in the vehicle. Protect it as carefully as you would any other legal document. And if your placard is approaching its expiration date, renew it well in advance through your state's motor vehicle authority to avoid any gap in your coverage. The second situation involves street cleaning violations and the confusion they cause for senior drivers. Street cleaning restrictions are among the most consistently enforced parking regulations in American cities. Every city with a street cleaning program designates specific days and times when parking is prohibited on particular streets to allow municipal cleaning vehicles to operate. The signs indicating these restrictions are posted on poles throughout the affected areas, but they can be challenging to read, particularly in older neighborhoods where signage has accumulated over many years and multiple signs on the same pole convey different restrictions for different times and days. The fine for a street cleaning violation in a major American city typically ranges from $65 to over $100 per incident, and there is generally no grace period. The restriction begins at the posted time, and enforcement begins simultaneously. A vehicle that was legally parked the night before becomes a violation the moment the restriction period starts in the morning. For senior drivers who park in the same neighborhood regularly, taking 5 minutes to carefully read and photograph the parking signs on your usual blocks is a worthwhile investment. Note which days and times require you to move your vehicle. Set recurring reminders on your phone or calendar. And if you are parking in an unfamiliar area, make reading every sign on the block a non-negotiable step before you walk away from the vehicle. The third situation involves time limit zones and how they are enforced with modern technology. Many residential and commercial areas in American cities post time limits on street parking. 2-hour limits are the most common, but 1-hour, 3-hour, and 4-hour limits exist in various zones. These limits are designed to keep parking spaces available and circulating for local businesses and residents rather than being occupied all day by the same vehicles. The enforcement of time limits using ALPR technology is significantly more effective than the older chalk mark system that officers used in previous decades. Modern enforcement vehicles scan plates continuously, and the timestamp of each scan is recorded. If the same plate appears in the same zone after the posted time limit has expired, the system automatically generates a violation notice regardless of whether any visible marking was made on the tire. For senior drivers who are running multiple errands in the same area, be aware that parking your vehicle, moving it briefly, and returning to the same block or the same zone does not reliably reset your time in most cities. The enforcement system may track the original time of first appearance in the zone. If you need more time in an area than the posted limit allows, look for metered parking where you can purchase additional time, or for parking garages and lots where time limits do not apply. The fourth situation involves payment systems that have changed in ways that confuse experienced drivers. American parking payment systems have undergone significant transformation in recent years. The familiar coin-operated parking meter is being replaced in many cities by pay stations, app-based payment systems, and license plate recognition systems that link payment directly to your vehicle's plate number. These new systems are more convenient in many ways, but they require a learning curve that can result in unintentional violations for drivers who are not familiar with how they work. The most common mistake at modern pay stations is entering an incorrect license plate number. When you pay at a pay station, your payment is recorded against the specific plate number you enter. If you transpose 2 digits, if you confuse a 0 with the letter O, or if you enter any other character incorrectly, your payment is recorded under a different plate number and your vehicle shows as unpaid in the enforcement system. You receive a fine even though you paid. Always double-check the license plate number you enter at any pay station before confirming your payment. Read the number displayed on the screen against the actual plate on your vehicle before you walk away. Save the receipt that the machine provides and keep it until you are certain no fine has been issued. If you do receive a fine for a period when you believe you paid correctly, the receipt is your evidence for contesting the violation. For seniors who prefer not to use smartphone apps for parking payment, most cities maintain alternative payment options, including pay stations, and in some areas, telephone payment systems. Ask your local parking authority about available options if you encounter a payment system you are not comfortable using. The fifth situation is one that specifically affects senior drivers more than any other demographic. It involves the physical challenges of reading parking signs accurately and the increased risk of confusion in unfamiliar areas. Parking signs in American cities are not always well designed. They can be faded, damaged, partially obscured by trees, or stacked in combinations that make the overall restriction difficult to parse. For any driver, this presents a challenge. For senior drivers who may have reduced visual acuity, who may be in an unfamiliar area, or who may be dealing with the cognitive demands of navigating new surroundings, the challenge is greater. The practical solution is to slow down and take more time with sign reading than you think you need. If you cannot clearly read a sign from your vehicle, get out and read it up close before you make a parking decision. If the signs on a block seem contradictory or confusing, move to a different location where the regulations are unambiguous. Parking in uncertainty is never worth the risk of a fine that could have been avoided by driving one more block to find a clearly legal space. There is something I want to address directly as we close. The financial impact of parking fines on seniors living on fixed incomes. A parking fine of $100 or $200 or $300 is a different kind of problem for a retiree living on Social Security and a pension than it is for a working person with a regular salary. For many American seniors, that amount represents a meaningful portion of their monthly discretionary income. It affects grocery budgets. It affects medication costs. It affects the small financial cushion that stands between comfortable retirement and financial stress. The knowledge we have shared in this video is not abstract information. It is practical protection for your financial security in a world where parking enforcement has become faster, more comprehensive, and more expensive than most senior drivers realize. Knowing the rules, reading the signs, verifying your payment, using your disability placard only as legally authorized. These are simple habits that protect real money that you worked your entire life to earn and save. Senior Secure Income exists because you deserve the information that keeps your retirement financially secure in every aspect of your daily life, including the moments when you are simply trying to park your car and run an errand without coming back to an unexpected financial penalty. If this video helped you, hit the like button right now and share it with a senior driver in your family or community who needs to know about these enforcement changes. Leave a comment and tell me which of these parking situations concerns you most based on where you live and where you drive. I read every comment and respond regularly. And if you are not yet subscribed to Senior Secure Income, subscribe now and turn on the notification bell. Because in the coming days, we are covering more essential information for senior drivers, retirees, and anyone living on a fixed income in America who deserves to keep more of their money. See you in the next video.